Hello, how y'all doing? Welcome back to my studio here on the Direct Action Gaming channel. And yes, today we are diving right into Grimdark Future from One Page Rules. This is a game that I wanted to get into for quite some time. And I don't know why I've been putting it off for so long. Because I already had most of the things that I needed to really get started. I should have just gone for it. I was kind of waiting till like maybe I had like a 3D printer, because One Page Rules does make their own little models that can be printed and blah 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 blah. Blah. But what's really cool about uh, all of the games from One Page Rules are they are models agnostic, meaning you can use any kind of models you want. So there's an awful lot of variation in terms of how their games can be played, which is really cool. So yeah, we're gonna dive right into the game here and see how it works. Grimdark Future is, in a nutshell, sci-fi tabletop wargaming. That's what it is. It started out as sort of a much simpler rule set for Warhammer 40,000 and just kind of went from there, right? So, anywho, Harry. All right, yeah. So, like I said, I already had most of the things that I needed. The only other additional things that I got, which are really going to help, I picked up. You can see here there are these objective tokens on the table here. There are a bunch of other tokens over here. I ordered these from the OPR Etsy store. They have an official Etsy store where you can buy stuff. They made these little tokens, which, by the way, you don't need to buy these either, actually. You can get the tokens free as a resource. You can just sort of have a PDF file that you can print out and you can make your own tokens. That was what I was going to do initially. But then I found out they made these tokens. So I'm like, all right, and they're pretty cheap. So I bought a few sheets on Etsy, and I think there's like 4 types over here. We have like activation tokens, wound tokens, and I think some other tokens that will represent fatigued units and or shaken units, and those are like a couple states that units could be in, basically. So, all right. I might as well explain how a typical game of Grimdark Future by One Page Rules would start and or would get set up. Today I'm just going to be... Technically there are some additional solo/co-op rules that they came up with. And I'm going to get into that eventually, I would suppose, to be able to automate one side or the other. That might be kind of cool. But... we're just going to play this very simply with double fisting, I guess you might call it. I'm going to play both sides here as if they were, I was just each side, right? Yeah, we're just going to keep this simple. So, to start with, you set up your table, right? You have your table. The the armies need to be deployed at least 24 inches apart, right? So you need a table that's at least 24 inches here and there, right? Hopefully a little bit bigger. That's another reason, by the way, I was hanging on for so long. I was like, all right, if I really want to do this, I'm going to need two 2x6 tables so I can have like a big 4x6 table in the studio here. I'm going to want a whole bunch of scenery, blah, 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 blah. No, actually, none of that is necessary. You can play a simple 1,000-point game on a table just like this. And that's what we're doing. We're just doing 1,000 points. They recommend starting with that, and then like a full game will be 2,000, but there's no reason you can't go well beyond that. So yeah, we've got and that's really all you do, right? You got your table, you set it up. You need it. The rules say you need at least 15 plus pieces of terrain to put down on the table. That can be any gosh darn thing. I do have all this terrain from my Warhammer 40k days when I was playing way back when I was a kid. That's where some of these models come from too. But yeah, table, scenery. You set that up, then you need 2 armies, right? So we have the Blood Brothers over here, and we have Infected Colonies over here. Blood Brothers, all really old Games Workshop models. Over here, we've got a mixture of all kinds of stuff, right? So mostly we have a bunch of Zombicide models. So this is what I've decided to do with my extra Zombicide models. I have made an Infected Colonies army out of them. Right. I also have a mixture of some other wargaming models from these are non-Games Workshop. Most of these are really old. There's like precisely one here that I got on Etsy. So yeah, there's a squad of infected soldiers here, but the rest of all this stuff is all like extra Zombicide stuff. Most of it is like normal, I guess you would say normal Zombicide. I have a few models here from Zombicide Invader, which was like the sci-fi Zombicide, and that represents the Infected Colonies. And again, that's what's cool about one-page rules. You can use whatever fucking models you want. Just go wild, get super creative. It's fine. It's one-page rules. So, I love that. Yeah, that's mainly all you need. Really, you kind of need some tokens, which you can make. You need a bunch of 6-sided die. Most gamers have a bunch of D6s lying around, right? You want to have some models, which, by the way, you can print some paper models. One Page Rules makes that available. All right, this is supposed to be later. We need to get into the game. Right, so the way to set this up, you need your terrain, the table, blah, blah, blah. We've got our armies. Cool. It says after you set everything up, the players would normally you sort of like roll for like initiative for who's going to go first, more or less. You also roll to see how many objectives there are going to be. It's like D3 plus 2 objectives. So you roll like a D6 divided by 2. Then you add 2. You put the objectives around the table. They have to be outside of the deployment zones and at least 9 inches away from one another. So I put one up here on this hill, and 2 others are inside of these ruined buildings over here. So those are the objectives. And so the goal of the game, more or less, is we've got 4 rounds. We're going to get into what that is in a bit. But we have 4 rounds, and whoever controls the most objectives, whichever side controls the most objectives at the end, will win the game, right? Okay, so there's that. Round. What the heck is that? All right, so what's cool, I think, about one-page rules is, unlike with Warhammer 40,000, if you are familiar with that at all, it's not a I go, you go thing, right? So when players are rolling for initiative to see who goes first, that's really just who gets to plop down the first unit. So this side would plop down a unit, then the other side would, and on and on and on, right? Until all the units have been deployed, and then whoever goes first, it's the same thing. They will move the first unit. That unit will then become activated, and you have like these little activation tokens to remind yourself, okay, this unit already went for this round. And so you know the round is over once all the units on the table have been activated. First round would then be over, and then you go to the next round until we see who wins. So, okay. And yeah, that's kind of more or less it. There's a little bit more to it. They have rules over here for just like activation, movement, shooting, melee, morale, terrain. Yeah, I guess we start by determining, well, who is it that's going to go first, right? We'll roll a red die and a black die, and I guess the red is going to be the Blood Brothers, and the black is going to be Infected Colonies. So whoever rolls higher is the side that will go first. And it's a tie, so we have to roll again. All right, Blood Brothers win the initiative, so they go first. All right. So this would mean now each side has units that can do ambush. So that's why we have some models in these trays here off to the side. These models will deploy at the beginning of a round and all that jazz. We will see how that works, but both sides have models that are technically not on the map at the moment. So the Blood Brothers only have 2 units. We've got these Battle Brothers here, and we also have some Death Brothers with a Master Brother chaplain. I don't think they even really call it a chaplain. By the way, really quick, what I also really, really love, not just how simple the rules are, but also one-page rules. Look at that. You can make your own army lists. They have their own app for making army lists. You can print out lists that are just nice, simple, easy to read. Just it's really cool. So I just made up these lists on my phone, printed them out. Here we fucking go, right? Yeah. The Blood Master Brother, I guess, yeah, I gave him the Blood Priest upgrade. So this is a Blood Priest. Anyway, each side has precisely 1 hero model. All right, let's figure this out. So, since the Blood Brothers can go first, that means Blood Brothers get to activate 1 unit. Now, when it comes to like unit activation, once again, this is all very streamlined. There's 1 of 4 things a unit can do when they get activated. So a unit can either hold, which means they don't move anywhere and they just shoot, or they can advance, which means they will move 6 inches unless there are terrain modifiers or other modifiers that will, affect how far they can move. They can move 6 and then shoot, or they can rush, which means they move 12 inches and they can't shoot. Or they can charge, which means they move 12 inches into combat. And again, there are slight modifiers here and there, but that's what the special rules are for. That's what's really cool. We have the core rules, and then there are special rules that will sort of modify all sorts of things and whatnot. Anyway, so since we need to take these 3 objectives here, what we might try to go for is the Death Brothers can try to move here, and perhaps the Battle Brothers can maybe try to move here. I don't know. We'll see. We're going to move the Death Brothers. What are the what are the are they the Death Brothers? Yeah. Yeah, they're the Blood Death Brothers. The Blood Death Brothers. So in terms of terrain, core rules state you've got cover terrain and difficult terrain. So cover terrain is just any kind of wall or just anything that partially obscures most of the unit. That counts as cover, and that really just means you get a +1 to your saving roll if you're getting shot at. Now, I was kind of thinking of declaring, when it comes to difficult terrain, you want to declare what sections of the map are considered to be difficult, because that will affect how the distance units can move, right? So I was kind of thinking like these buildings, difficult because there's just going to be rubble all over the gosh darn place. You got a big rubble pile over here, that's difficult. The hill is going to be difficult terrain, and there's also that small hill over there. So when models are trying to move through those areas, that will be considered difficult terrain. Well, this as well, if anybody has to move there, but I kind of doubt that they will, because the objectives are all in the middle of the map here, right? So let's get our ruler out over here. We're going to say that the Blood Death Brothers are... Can they advance? We might as well have them all just advance. It's not like it really matters. We'll just say they rush. Because if they all just have like pistols anyway. If we say they rush, I can just justify moving all of them all up inside this building, and they'll get nice and cozy and be in cover and just be waiting for anything to try and get up in here and take that objective. So yeah, we're going to activate these guys here. Move them all up inside of here. Try and get them behind these walls so that they don't get shotted up too much. I mean, it's not like they have to worry. We have to worry that much about shooting as the Blood Brothers, because the zombies really only have like one squad that can actually shoot. All right, so that was the Death Brothers. That did a rush into there. So now the Infected Colonies can decide who's going to move. And over here, we've got 3 units, basically. We've got some runners. So we got a big mass of 20 runners. And then we have the infected soldiers behind them. And then we also have a big mass of walkers and or, typical zombies. Plus we have the monstrous tyrant, which is the hero for the Infected Colonies. So who should we move first? Let's do the runners. Yeah, let's do the runners. The runners are, I think, one of the only Infected Colonies units that is not affected by slow. Let me double check that. Runners don't have slow. They also have Strider, which is pretty cool. Strider means they get to ignore difficult terrain, basically. So they get to move normally, pretty much, and they can just vault over difficult terrain and whatnot. Zombies... The zombies are definitely slow. Yeah, the zombies are the only ones that are slow, actually. Hunters and soldiers both move normally. Okay, so it's just that zombie unit that's going to be moving a little bit slower than everybody else, and the tyrant is attached to that unit. So the tyrant kind of has to move at the same speed the rest of these zombies are moving. But the zombies, for the most part, are a big old meat shield for the tyrant there. But we're going to do a rush with these runners. So, let's see. I guess that would put them all just at the edge of this building right here, like close to the objective. So I'll just move all of them in a big mass. They're just churning forward. A whole bunch of them just going straight for that objective. And the rules state all you have to do is have a unit 3 inches away from an objective without any other enemies there. If that objective is uncontested, you seize that objective. So now you've got one objective for your side. So I guess the Blood Brothers are in the lead right now since the Death Brothers took one objective. Infected Colonies is about to take another objective. So probably at the beginning of next turn, we're going to see some ambushing units come in here to try and contest some of these objectives. All right, we'll get an activation token to remind ourselves the runners have activated. They have gone. So there. Now you can probably see what I'm talking about here. I kind of like how this is more of a chess game rather than like... I mean, I've heard a lot of people say they don't like 40K because of the I go, you go thing. Whoever gets to go first gets to move their entire army, and the other player just has to sit there and take it as they get shot to pieces without being able to do anything. Whereas in this game, you get to react to what your opponent does. That's just better in my opinion. So I like that. Right. So now the Blood Brothers can go. Let's get out our measuring tape and see. Are these Battle Brothers within shooting range? They most certainly are. Do they have line of sight to the runners? Let's check. Oh, let me get down here. Yeah, they can see the runners. They can see them from here. They would definitely get cover for being mostly behind that building. They can take some pot shots from right where they are, though. So we are going to roll to shoot. They're just going to hold the Battle Brothers for now. They're all just going to shoot. And let's see. They've got 4 heavy rifles and a missile launcher. So I'll use red for the heavy rifles and a white die for the missile launcher. So let's see here. Yeah, and that's what it is. I think the only real difference here between like the missile launcher and the heavy rifles is like the distance and the armor piercing. So we're gonna see how that works since this is our first attack. Although the missile launcher has several of these attribute things that I was talking about. Deadly and unstoppable. But in terms of shooting at these runners, like a missile is only going to take out one of them anyway. All right. Blood Brothers have a quality of 3. Wow. That means only 1 rifle shot connected. Oh my gosh. What a roll. Okay. Even without cover, they would have missed most of their shots. That's wild. Okay, well, we got one hit. One hit, and now the runners get to roll to defend. Runners should have a defense of 6, but since they have cover, they get +1, so they can save on a 5 or more. Let's see if there's any other special rules for the runners. Fearless, Infected, and Strider. So I don't think there's anything that would affect their ability to defend themselves from shooting here. So on anything on a 5 or less, we get 1 runner dead. And a 3, so 1 runner is dead. Gonzo. Since it's only 1 dead model, that definitely isn't going to trigger any kind of morale test. Because we'd only have to take that if we have less than half the unit size by the end of the turn, I think. I believe that's how that works. Alright, so activation token for these Battle Brothers here. Which means we now move the other 2 units for the Infected Colonies, and this round will be over. And we're going to do a rush of the zombies here. Man, those Space Marines, they must have been taking a nap or something. I don't know what the heck that was. Okay. Now these zombies, they are about to do a rush, but they have slow. And that kind of means... let me see this again. Yeah, -2 for advance and -4 when using rush charge. So, advancing 4, rushing 8. So these zombies will rush over this wall towards that objective that the Death Brothers are currently guarding. The Death Brothers are about to get a whole lot of neighbors real soon. A whole lot of curious onlookers that would like to ask them some questions. I just want to have a chat. It's fine. Famously, zombies just like talking to people. Famously. That's what zombies do. Okay. Boom. Activated. Zombies rushed over there. And I think we're going to have the soldiers rush too. I was kind of thinking about trying to have them move up to the hill there. So let's measure out 12 inches so that they can rush. So that means... probably just put 1 here. Okay, we're probably just gonna have to put them like right behind the hill so they don't fall over. Yeah, right behind the hill so they don't fall over. Alright, so there's the infected soldiers. They have rushed. That's the end of the first round. Cool. Let's remove all of these activation tokens. And we start the next round. And I'm fairly certain, since yeah, the Blood Brothers won initiative last time, so they are the ones that get to go first. I believe that's the way that works. Let me double check. Players roll off, and the winner. Starting with the winner that each round players alternate in activating one unit each, starting with the player that won the deployment roll off. Each new round, the player that finished activating first on the last round gets to go first. Oh, okay. So that would be the Infected Colonies. It might be the Infected Colonies get to go first all the time because they just have more units. For now, at least, anyway, than the Blood Brothers. So the Infected Colonies do get to go first now, since they activated last. Well, I don't know if it would be a good idea to deploy my hunters just yet. I think when it comes to ambush, it says maybe set aside before deployment at the start of any round after the first, may be deployed anywhere over 9 inches away from enemy units. Players alternate in placing ambush units, starting with the player that activates next. Units that deploy via ambush can't seize or contest objectives on the round they deploy. Okay. I don't think the Infected Colonies would want to do an ambush. I think we almost certainly want to do some ambushing with the Blood Brothers. Although, is it anywhere 9 inches away? I think I'm overthinking this. Because I think if, let's see, players alternate in placing ambush units. Yeah, so once the Blood Brothers decide to do an ambush, then like all ambush units are just gonna plop down anyway. So players alternate in placing ambush units, starting with the player that activates next. Units that deploy via ambush can't seize or yeah. Okay, but let's see. I know. A good first move probably is to do an advance of these infected soldiers here. They could advance up to onto the hill here. Okay. And since they just did it in advance, that means they can move and shoot. So now they can shoot at the Battle Brothers. Yes, they can. And they're going to do a whole lot of shooting as well. Let's see, the soldiers have carbines. Carbines get attack 2. They have 8 carbines, so that's like 16. Plus the heavy machine gun is 3 die. Their quality is 5 or more though. So they're gonna need all these extra die, right? Okay, so let's get 16 red die. And actually, since the Blood Brothers are in cover, we would only be hitting on 6s rather than 5s. So we're going to be rolling a lot of die, but I don't expect to get a lot of hits here. 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then the 3 black die is going to be the heavy machine gun. Okay. Let's roll all of this and see how many 6s we can get. Each 6 is going to be a hit. And we got 2. We got 2 hits. Everything else was a miss. All right. Well, hold the phone here. Let me check. Cover terrain. Okay, it doesn't affect to hit. It affects defense rolls. So we would still be hitting on a 5. I think I saw 2 5s with the carbine. So we got 4 hits with the carbines. I'm trying to make a note of that. It really means +1 to defense. Now what that means is I think the Battle Brothers are going to be defending on a 2 or more rather than a 3 or more. So we're really only going to be getting wounds here on like a 1. They have to roll a critical failure in order to actually get taken out by these carbines. Oh my gosh, and we rolled 3 1s. Yo! These Battle Brothers are not having a good day. 3 1s. Okay. 3 of them are dead right off the bat. And since that's over half the unit, they need to take a morale test. So how does that work? Morale tests. At the end of an activation where wounds leave a unit with half or less of its total size or tough value for single model units, or it loses a melee, the unit must take a morale test. To take a morale test, take a quality test, and if failed, the unit is shaken. Alright. And Battle Brothers should have a quality of 3. Okay, so they have to roll a die. I think they also have Fearless, though, which I think means even if they fail, they get to re-roll pretty much. Yeah, on a 4 or more, they will pass anyhow. So they'll take their first initial test, which is a 6, they pass. They're fine. They don't care that most of them are already dead. Alright, so that was the soldiers advancing. I guess, let's see here. Blood Brothers are definitely going to be doing some ambushing here. How do we want to play this? Because we have a unit of destroyers and a unit of assault brothers in reserve. We can deploy them up to 9 inches away from enemy units. So we could start with maybe putting some destroyers here so they could start taking a whole bunch of shots at the rear here. Maybe taking out some of them soldiers there. That might be good. But if we deploy these destroyers here, then the infected colonies will also get to deploy their hunters. And then we also deploy the assault brothers. At least I believe that's what ambush says. Read this once again. Maybe set aside, blah, 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 at the start. Okay, at the start of any round. Which means, okay, so we're going to have to do this next round then. Since we didn't do it at the start of the round, we're going to have to wait until the beginning of next round to start deploying ambush units. Okay, the Blood Brothers. I guess we're going to activate these guys, and they're going to shoot. Should they shoot at the soldiers? We hit on 3 or more, and wound on a 5 or more. I think they should shoot at those zombies over there. I think we might count the zombies in cover, since the unit is mostly obscured by the hill and that rubble over there. It's 2 shots, missile launcher and heavy rifle. They hit on a 3 or more. How many zombies do we kill? We get a 3 and a 4. Hey, they actually hit some stuff this time. Cool. So, let's see. It is AP1 and AP2. Right. I remember this too now. When rolling to defend, no matter what sort of modifiers you have, you can always save on a 6. Where does it say that though? I know I heard somebody say that. 6 is always. Pretty much always. Yeah, modifiers. Regardless of modifiers, rolls of 6 always succeed and rolls of 1 always fail. General principles. That's where it is. Alright. So, yeah, they save on a 6. We need 2 6s. We got 1. So only one zombie is dead. Blood Brothers are pretty underwhelming here so far. Okay, so who do we activate next? How's about the runners activate? Either the runners or the zombies. Let's see if the zombies here, 8 inches would not be enough. To be able to like charge these Death Brothers here. These runners could get nice and cozy all up in these ruins to take that objective, which means Infected Colonies would be winning so far since they have 2 objectives seized. So I think obviously we are going to do that. Gonna activate the runners. I guess I'll just put an activation token right here. And then we're going to measure 12 inches. Just have them all rush on up in here. They're just going to spread all over these ruins here. Just going to have a whole bunch of runners all up in the ruins. They have a desperate need to get all up in here. Okay, that was the runners. They have seized this objective. It is 2-1 so far. Okay. And Blood Brothers get to go next. Would the Death Brothers want to do anything, or are they just going to sort of hold here? They could just hold. They could. Because if they move more than, well, let's see. Can they charge? They can charge. Now, see, now that I think about it, according to the rules, this objective counts as seized until an enemy unit gets within 3 inches of it. So this is Blood Brothers' objective until some other Infected Colonies unit gets close enough to count it as seized. Blood Brothers can... The Death Brothers can charge the zombies, so they'll do that. They will do that. It's about time for the Blood Brothers to do some impressive stuff here. Because they may not have been doing very good with shooting thus far. But let me tell you, when it comes to melee, that's where the Blood Brothers shine. Alright, so... figure out how this works again. Bloodborne, what the heck is that? Okay, for each unmodified roll of 6 to hit when attacking, this model may roll +1 oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, I wish I had noticed that before. I think this applies to shooting too. Unmodified roll of 6 to hit. Yeah, alright. What else do we have? Death Brothers have Fearless, and they also have Regeneration. But we also have the Master Brother, and he has the Piercing Assault aura. That means everybody's going to get AP +1 when charging. I mean, the Zambies have like defensive 6 anyway, so that doesn't really mean that much. I guess Bloodborne is going to be the main thing here, because on any rolls of 6s, we get an extra attack basically, and it looks like we're going to be having 5 chain swords. Wait. Yeah, 5 chain swords, 2 attacks each. Blood Master Brother has the energy hammer, which is 1 attack but blast 3. For a blast, ignores cover, and after resolving other special rules, each hit is multiplied by X. All right, cool. So yes, we are going to be charging. We are going to be charging with the Death Brothers. They furiously charge out of the ruins here. Let me double check what happens with difficult terrain again. Difficult terrain can't move more than 6 inches at a time in total. So if we were considering this difficult, they technically wouldn't have been able to do this. Oops. They should have only been able to move like 6 inches, which means we probably should have just had them hold, but whatever, you live and you learn. No. We're going to follow the rules. If they are in difficult terrain here, and that's also difficult terrain, they can't move more than 6. That means they can't really charge like that. So they're going to hold at the objective for now. It's not as exciting, but that's what the rules are. They got to stay here to hold this. No melee just yet. Okay, we're just going to put an activation Sit-in Bull next to the Death Brothers. They were holding... they do have pistols, though. 12 inches is the range for their pistols. So they could shoot. They might as well. We might as well have them shoot with their pistols. Why the heck not? Let's thin out those Zambies while we are holding. So, Death Brothers, they have 5 heavy pistols, and the Master Brother has a Master Heavy Pistol that'll basically give him an extra attack. But they all have AP 1 on them. So yeah, since it's AP 1, that means they would ignore the cover that the Zambies would normally get. Alright, so we're going to have 5 red die and 2 black die hitting on a 3 or more. And when we get 6s, that's an extra shot we get to take, basically, thanks to Bloodborne. And we do get 2 extra shots. Cool. Let's roll 2 more die to see what happens. But other than that, we've got... Let's see. 5 hits. get to roll 2 extra shots. And we get 1 extra hit. Which was a 6, but we're not going to do that again. Alright. So, now the zombies get to roll the save. They only get to save on a 6. And they do get 2 6s. So 4 of them die. Remove the first 4 models here. They are all gone. All right. Cool, cool, cool. Some might argue whether, like, some of these guys actually had line of sight since they're, like, completely behind this wall. Whatever. That's less cheaty than the charge that I tried to do through difficult terrain when... Anyway. Okay, so that was the Death Brothers. I think, yeah, the final activation is going to be the zombies. They are going to rush 8 inches ahead to be within striking distance of the Death Brothers. So we are going to have our melee next turn. That is for sure. So that is 2 rounds down. We got 2 more rounds to go. So far, Infected Colonies is winning. Infected Colonies has the lead. Can the Blood Brothers catch up somehow? Okay, I think we're going to have to move these ones. Just whatever. Yep. Okay. And Infected Colonies are going to get to go first once again. Because whoever has the last activation gets to go first. And I am thinking... yeah. It's 9 inches away from the Death Brothers. Let's deploy these hunters just right here. Right here, and then they can sideswipe the Death Brothers. Who will be appropriately named, because, boy, they are going to get swamped, aren't they? If they get sandwiched between the hunters and all these zombies and the tyrant as well. Yeah, we're going to do an ambush. We are at the start of the round here. We're going to start deploying ambushing units. So hunters will get to deploy here. We have 5 of them. Oh wait, no, there's a unit there too though. So we can't actually do that. Let's say, can we deploy them? Such a small table. We'll just say we deploy them right here. They are within charging distance though, that's for sure. Because if we deploy them here, then like charge is just beyond that. So they could like charge right behind where the Death Brothers are right now. Yeah, okay. Hunters have deployed in ambush. All right, and since the hunters have deployed, the Blood Brothers get to do the same thing with their units. And I was kind of thinking of maybe having the destroyers deploy back here. And probably the assault boys are going to have to deploy over there in the ruins. We have the destroyers right here, so they can start taking some shots. They have storm rifles that mean they can shoot at these guys or any of that stuff. They can shoot any of the infected colony people from here. And these destroyers, that's their main thing. They got storm rifles, and I did not have enough points to actually say that they have energy fists. They just have storm rifles and close combat weapons. Just normal old close combat weapons. So they're not very good at melee. But they are shooty as all heck, and there they are. And we can also deploy the Assault Brothers 9 inches away from the runners here. You can probably say they plop down right here. Yeah, right here, more or less, I suppose. Yeah, I think the Assault Brothers should have... Assault Brothers have flying, may move through units and terrain, and ignores terrain effects whilst moving. Okay, yeah, so we're going to take our squad of Assault Brothers. They're going to plop down right here, more or less, by this little hill over here. So they can leap into those ruins, start up a melee with them runners to contest that objective. All right. Okay, so now that we've done the ambushes, it is time to begin round 3. And the infected are going to get to go first, since they were the ones that activated last in the last round. So which unit would we want to activate first? Let's see. Any melees we start will... Could also have our soldiers do shooting. Could start with that. Could. I'm starting to think if it was really wise to put them here. We started there. Those guys are over there. These hunters might be better for taking out those destroyers over there. But this is the objective. I want to take that objective. What do? Could have them break away and try to... But see, that's... Again, that's not an objective. If our soldiers over here, though, get... Destroyers... They would get to roll 9 shots. AP 1. That's their main thing. So in one round of shooting, they might wipe out these models over here. They might. That unit is gone. We still technically have seized that objective. The destroyers would have to move up to that hill to then seize it. They're not close enough to really charge these guys anyway. Screw it. Follow the plan. They're going to charge in to the Death Brothers. To where these Death Brothers are. They're going to get right behind the Death Brothers, and we're going to start a melee. All right, they have charged. I say activated for the hunters. Okay, so the hunters have a mix here because I've done some upgrades for them. So that's why I've used different models for them. We've got these slightly smaller ones. They've got like sharp claws. And then I've used the slightly beefier one to represent one of them that has a barbed claw. And this all equates to what? Oh, wow. Yeah. 9 attacks. Okay. I think the way this works, the Death Brothers can decide to strike back or not. Okay, sharp claws. Black is going to be the barbed claw. And quality is 3, so we hit on a 3. Sharp claws have rending, which I believe means ignores regeneration, which is something that the Death Brothers do have. And on unmodified results of 6 to hit, those hits get AP plus 4. Normally it's AP 1, meaning the Death Brothers are only going to save on 4s here. They don't get anything special like they normally would. No regeneration. They do have fearless. All right. Hitting on 3s. Okay, so we've got, the barbed claw does hit. So there's only 3 misses. No 6s though. So, alright. That means the Blood Brothers now need to roll the save. They only save on, I think, a 4 or more for these sharp claws. Barbed claw has AP 2 though, so they'd only get a 5 for the barbed claw. So we're looking for 4s on the red die and a 5 on the black die. How many are we about to lose? Does the barbed claw ignore regeneration though? No, because it just has deadly 3. Okay, so with the barbed claw, regeneration would count. And that means on a 5 or more, it's a save no matter what. Okay, so we only got 2 fails for the barbed claw and for one of the sharp claws. So we should have 1 Death Brother dead, thanks to the sharp claw hit. But with the barbed claw, we get the benefit of regeneration. So on a 5 or more, that wound is ignored. And it's still a 1, so another 1 goes down. So that is 2 Death Brothers out of action right off the bat. Okay. So they can choose whether to strike back. Harry. Oh no, Harry! Oof. Knock everything over, didn't you, buddy? Harry, no, Harry, come on now. Yes, I know you're very cute. I know. I know how cute you are. Now, let's see these melee rules again. They might as well strike back. If they do, they will be fatigued, though. And that's going to be... Well, both units will be fatigued after this melee. Now, if they get charged again by the zombies, which they will, that fatigue is going to come into play. But they are... Harry, please. Alright. Well, if they strike back... Turn them around. Alright. Oh, come on, Harry. Okay, we got 3 normal Death Brothers. That would be like 6 from their chain swords. And with Bloodborne, any 6s will give us an extra attack. We also have the Master Brother with the Energy Hammer. That's 1 attack, but it's blast 3. Okay. So, we're going to roll 6 red die for the normal Death Brothers with their chain swords, and 1 black die to represent the Energy Hammer. Now we're going to try to see who wins this melee. Should be hitting on 3s or more for everything. Okay, we did get a 6, so we get 1 extra roll, 2 misses. So this 3 is a hit, and that counts as 3 hits, basically. There we go. Okay. Oh, this might just wipe out the hunters entirely. It might. We'll see how good their defense is. But we do get to roll 1 additional die thanks to that 6. And it's a 4, so that is another hit. Okay. So we need to roll for defense for the hunters. They get a defense of 4 or more normally. But let's see. I think we've got AP 1 on the chain swords. Harry! Jesus! Oh, gosh, Harry! Oh. Alright, how does this work again? Energy hammer. Wow, really? That's interesting. Really? Harry! I also forgot this piercing assault. Does that mean again? Piercing assault is this model gets AP +1 when charging. Oh gosh. This model and its unit get piercing assault. That means, oh wow. The chain swords, they're doing AP2, and the energy hammer does AP1. So, okay. So we need 3 black die to represent the energy hammer. We save on 5s for that. Because thanks to blast, 1 hit actually is 3. With the chain swords, we need a 6 to save. Because thanks to piercing assault, AP +1, they have 4, it's 6. Alright. Okay, looks like we only get 1 actual save. All the rest of them missed. Yeah, that wipes out the hunter unit. Hunter unit is gone. Goodbye, hunters. I guess the Death Brothers won the melee. Harry, please, for the love of... Oh. Right in the middle of the table. Thanks, Harry. Alright, so that does mean that they are fatigued after having been in combat. I think they are allowed to move 3 inches. Harry, can you please stay off the table so I can finish this game, please? Okay. One of the units is destroyed. The other may move by up to 3 inches. Else, chargers must move back and separate by 1 inch if possible. All right. So, I don't know if the 3-inch move matters all that much. I mean, we'll just move them anyway. Just move them into a line here. So I guess they know the zombies are about to come, so they're gonna be ready to receive them while also being fatigued. And I'm fairly certain that fatigue units only hit on unmodified results of 6 in melee until the end of that round. So they're not going to be hitting as hard as they did in the first melee. That is for sure. Okay, so that all happened. Yeah, that was just one. We did the charge with the hunters, and they only managed to take out 2 Death Brothers and got wiped out as a result. I guess that means the Death Brothers could... Yeah. We could activate the Death Brothers and say they're just going to shoot with their pistols again at the zombies to try and thin them out a bit before they get charged. So we're going to do that. So we should have... Death Brothers... There'd be 3 normal pistols, and the Master Brother would get 2 with his Master Heavy Pistol. Okay. So 3, 2 black die. It's AP1. So any cover that they would normally get thanks to that wall there is just ignored. Hitting on a 3 or more. And we did get a 6, which means we get to roll an additional die. That's 2 hits. 2 hits. That's a hit too. So 3 hits. Saves on a 6. 1 save. 2 are dead. Let's take out these 2 in the back here. Ugh. They dead. Alright, so that is the Death Brothers activated. Who is going next? Has to be Infected Colonies. Might as well. We'll do the zombies. The zombies are going to charge along with the monstrous tyrant and see if they can't just take this objective. So we're going to charge in here with the monstrous tyrant and the zombies. Get them all up in here and see how much damage can we do to these Death Brothers. Can we wipe them out? Very possibly. Because we have a lot of zombies. We got a whole bunch of zombies. Okay, zombies charged. And They each get 2 attacks. Oh my gosh. Okay, so how many zombies do we have? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, 13 zombies equals like 26 attacks from the zombies alone, and then that's not even counting the tyrant. We might as well figure out the tyrant first. That'd be easier, because that's basically just going to be 4 attacks. He's got a monstrous stinger and stomp. Okay, so we're going to figure out the tyrant. How much damage does the tyrant do first? Quality on the tyrant is 3. Okay, that is 1 miss, 3 hits. So the red was the stomp, and the black was the stinger, monstrous stinger. Monster Stinger has AP 2. Stomp has AP 1. So the stomp hits are... Yeah, they would need a 4 or more to save. Stinger is 5. Looking for 4s and a 5 to save. Okay, both the red fail. We're good on the monstrous stinger, but it looks like we lose 2 more Death Brothers. Although they do have regeneration, so they could... I don't think the stomp ignores regeneration, because there's nothing special about the stomp attack. Okay, I forgot some more special stuff. I put Thrust in Melee Aura on the Tyrant, which means when charging gets +1 to hit rolls and AP +1 in Melee. Cool. Alright, so 2 5s, 1 6. So only 1 brother goes down. Okay. That was from the Tyrant. So now we're rolling a ton of dice for the zombies. Keeping in mind, they will get +1 to hit. The zombie quality is 5. They will hit on a 4, though, thanks to the thrust. Let's see. 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 die. Okay. Looking for 4s to see how many hits we get. Thanks to the zombies. So there's no armor piercing on these, though. They only hit on they hit on a 4 or more. No armor piercing, though. So this is a lot of die. How many 4 or more are we going to get in here? A lot. An awful lot. Okay, we got 6, 4. Okay. That's a whole bunch of hits. Death Brothers can save on a 3 or more. 4 or more, actually, thanks to thrust, because thrust also gives AP +1 to the whole unit. So they only save on a 4 or more. Damn it. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fails. 7 fails, actually. And since we've got 2 brothers and a master brother with 3 wounds, that is enough to take them all out. Death Brothers have been wiped out. Although, I think with regeneration, we can potentially flip some of these if we roll 5 or more. I got 1 5, but that's still 5, 6. So that is still enough to take him out. Those zombies just tore him apart. There was just too many of them. They done got torn apart. They're only gonna hit on 6s in melee anyway. Alright, so this unit is fatigued now, because they just fought in melee. And they done activated as well. This unit has activated for this turn. Yes, it did. Who's going next? It's not looking good for the Blood Brothers, is it? It really isn't. Okay, so let's activate the destroyers. They're gonna open up on Harry. Sit down on the chair, please. They're gonna open up on these infected soldiers here. The infected soldiers will not get to save because there's no walls in the way here. So destroyers should get, it should be 9. Gonna roll 9 die, hitting on a 3 or more, AP 1. And I think soldiers have a defense of 5 anyway, so they only save on a 6, basically. Alright. Let's get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hitting on a 3 or more. Oh, and thanks to Bloodborne, we have 2 6s, which means we can roll 2 additional. We only missed once. So here's a bunch of hits, and we get to roll 2 more die, thanks to Bloodborne. Are these 3 or more? We get 1 additional hit. Okay. How many 6s do we get? Only 1. Only 1 6. So this is 5, 6, 7, 8. That's pretty much the entire unit. So they're going to have to take a morale test after that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, how many again? 6. Yeah. There's all the carbines. 5, 6, 7, 8. They are all. Yeah, they're all gonzo. Alright. Gotta take a morale test. What is there? Yeah, morale is quality, which is for the soldiers 5. Yeah, they don't have fearless or anything, so anything less than a 5, they are just gone. So that's a 1. Morale test. Half less of, or at, you must take a quality test, and if failed, the unit is shaken. Must stay idle, but may strike back, counting as fatigued. Always fails morale tests. Okay. Okay, so they are shaken. I'm gonna remove the flamer. Which means we put this little flag here. They are shaken. It means they have to remain idle. I think that means that like they just can't do anything this turn. May strike back in melee. So they must spend 1 full action idle to stop being shaken. Alright, so these soldiers just aren't going to be able to do anything this turn. Might as well count them as... I don't need to put the activation there. But shaken means they can't do anything. Alright, so that was the destroyers. I guess we go with the... Yeah, screw it. We're going to have the runners go now. I guess the runners get to charge the assault guys, because why the hell not? Why wouldn't we do that? They already took that objective. So we're going to have the runners charge the assault boys. This may not work out very well for these assault guys. I don't think it's going to work out very well for them. Nope. I don't think it's going to work out very well at all. This is probably going to be kind of bad for them, actually. The runners surge forward out of them ruins. And a mad dash to tear these assault marines apart before they even got a chance to do any gosh darn thing. Okay, time for another melee. So, if we have 20 runners, that means they get 40. Because once again, they have A2. Yeah. That's a whole lot of die we would roll. So I guess we'll roll 20 at a time. Oh gosh. All right, that's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right. Quality is, I think, is it 5 or 6? Yeah, so they only hit on 5s anyway. but with they also have infected. Enemies that roll to block hits from this model take 1 extra wound for each. Okay. Any rolls to save of a 1 is an extra wound. That's another special rule I've probably been ignoring this whole time, but anyway. Hitting on 5 or more. Oh boy, that's 3, 5, 6 hits so far, 7, 8, 9 hits so far. Okay. 9 hits so far. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Alright, hitting on a 5 or more. That was a 6. 6, 5, 5, 5, another 5, another 5, 5, 6, 5. Alright, that's how many hits we got. Oh gosh, that's a lot of hits. That's a whole lot of hits. Okay, so no AP though, so we save on 3 or more. Let's see what happens. They don't have regeneration or anything special either, so I think we got that's 4 failures. Oh, and since one of these failures was a 1, that actually counts as an extra wound thanks to infected. So if I'm reading this right, the assault marines have just been wiped out by the runners. Wow, okay. They didn't even get to hit back. Oh gosh. Yep. Yeah, they're all gone. They are all gonzo. No more assault brothers. Put an activation token over here. The runners went. Cool. Infected soldiers cannot go. They are shaken. I guess the other thing we can do for round 3 is we're gonna shoot with these 2 battle brothers over here. They're gonna desperately see what they can do to these zombies over here. They hit on a 3 or more. They are in cover, but the missile launcher has unstoppable, and I think that ignores cover. It ignores regeneration and all negative modifiers to this weapon. So three or more. They They both hit. Cool. All right. So we need 2 6s basically to try and save from that. Right? Yeah, 2 6s. 5 and a 1. All right. 2 more zombies are dead. 2 more zombies are dead. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Still not less than half, so they don't need to take a morale test either. Okay, so that's the end of round 3. We have 1 more round to go. But so far, the infected have... I mean, we might just call it here, honestly. I don't think the Blood Brothers are going to be able to take this one. They are not. They are not. Because they only have the Destroyers left and those 2 little Battle Brothers over there. This squad almost got wiped out. It doesn't matter. They still seized that objective, though. The Infected Colonies have seized all 3 objectives, and the Blood Brothers were not able to seize a single one. I mean, they got 1, but that was taken by the zombies and the hunters, basically. The hunters that bravely sacrificed themselves to help make it possible to take down those Death Brothers. Okay, so yeah. Let's see here. We're at almost 2 hours anyway. Oh gosh. Okay. That's weird. Why is there not a flipping? Okay. I don't know why there's no little flipping symbol so that I can just move around in my face. Whatever. Y'all can hear me. Okay, so that was our first game of Grimdark Future. I said it was quick and dirty, but it took 2 hours to finish that small 1,000-point game anyway, because it was my first game, and I'm trying to get used to it. Although, I mean, hey, this still is way quicker and easier than Warhammer 40,000. Like, I have never played this game before at all, and y'all just saw how quickly I was able to just sort of pick it up and get it, kind of, because there was really only 4 sheets I needed to keep on flipping between the 2 army lists and just like the rules, the core rules, basically. That's all there is to it. Yeah, so that is Grimdark Future by one-page rules, and I just want to talk a little bit at the end here about one-page rules and maybe the lore a little bit. So yeah, one-page rules. I already basically said like what the idea behind one-page rules is, right? Gaming on a budget, quick and dirty. It's 1 page. They're trying to streamline it and make it simple, very accessible, so that anybody can just sort of pick it up and get it and all that jazz, right? Maybe I can just... That's so awkward. I don't know why there's not a flipping button. That's annoying the hell out of me now. Why is there not a flipping button? I don't get it. Whatever, I'll have to figure this out. Y'all can hear me though. Point is, let me tell the story behind one-page rules, because I kind of like the story. The story in a nutshell is you had a a broke college student once upon a time who wanted to get back into Warhammer 40K, but Games Workshop was making it too hard. You know, it was it's too expensive. It's there's too many rules. He just didn't have enough time and money to get back into the game that he loved. But much like me, he had a whole bunch of models and some terrain lying around, and he wanted to get back into the game. But if you know anything about Games Workshop, like you have to buy like all their rule books. You have to buy like codexes for all their army lists, and they update all this stuff every couple of years. So you have to keep buying all the new things for the new editions, all the codexes. It's a lot of money that you have to spend to try and like keep up with the current edition and version of the game. And I heard somebody talking about this once, like even once all the edition and all the codexes are finally released for a certain edition, they might make changes to certain things that will then be posted in like their White Dwarf magazine, which kind of means you need a subscription to White Dwarf as well to try and keep track of like all the stuff that you're supposed to know. Like there's so much stuff that you need to buy in order to play Games Workshop games. Now, in comparison with one-page rules, what this guy did is he just like, all right, I'll take what I have and I will make some rules. Some really basic, simple rules. I'll turn it into a PDF. It'll just be a file that will be available whenever on the internet, and he called it One Page Rules 40K. That's how it started, right? Just one guy, he just wanted to play, he made that. People loved it, as you can imagine, because now they don't need to buy any codexes. Now they don't need to buy all this stuff. They can just take their models, go to the table, and just play. That's how it started. And that's awesome. And people loved it so much, it just kept going from there, right? So the guy started making his own army lists for his own factions. And to start with, like, they were all very similar to 40K armies. So, like, the Blood Brothers are basically like the Blood Angel Space Marines. Infected Colonies, that's from another game called Firefight by Mantic. I think that's where the inspiration for that type of army came from. But yeah, the guy just kept coming up with his own army lists. And again, like, the army lists are free online. You can just download those army lists at any time. You can see them right here. Like, they have an app that's free that works pretty good for like making up your own lists. And you can just print them out in these easy to read formats. It's just fucking great. You don't have to buy a codex at all. It's just there. I love that. And so, like, everything you need to play this game is just, it's free. You don't have to spend a single dime. Now, obviously, I had to pay money for all of this stuff that I have on the table here initially, right? I had to buy the terrain, I had to buy the models, blah, 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 blah. But I didn't have to pay all over again for a new set of rules and a new starter kit and blah, 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 blah. You know, to get into one-page rules, I just had to, like, download the rules. That was it. I didn't even, like I was explaining earlier, I didn't even really need to buy those tokens from them. I just kind of wanted to. So I bought the tokens and there I am, right? They are starting to produce their own models now, which is cool. You kind of need a 3D printer in order to, like, print the models, because for the most part, they are printable models. They're starting to figure out ways to, like, print them and then ship them to people. But this is a thing that's going on throughout the industry, from what I'm aware. Anyway, though, It's models agnostic for the most part. These games are models agnostic, so you can use whatever models you want. You can buy them from anywhere. You don't have to buy the one page rules models. Although they are making some really cool models. They're starting to make like their own starter kits that come with those tokens over there, and 2 starter armies, and a rule book that you don't technically need. Like, again, all the rules are online. They get updated. You can just see them whenever you want. You can bring them up on your phone. It's awesome. And you can see on the table here all you need to play. You just need some terrain, like a ruler, measuring tape, preferably, a whole bunch of 6-sided die, like a whole bunch, especially if you're doing Infected Colonies with like 20 models each. That was a lot of die I had to roll. So there's that. Yeah, that's one page rules in a nutshell, right? I really love one page rules. I highly encourage y'all to check it out if you like tabletop wargaming, like, at all. It's a great way to get into it. The only downside is if you really love those like detailed war games where there's lots of rules and strategy and tactics and blah 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 blah, maybe OPR isn't for you, because again, it's quick and dirty. It's meant to be really really simple. But what's cool about it is, like, they make all these additional rules, like the solo and co-op rules that I mentioned earlier. They make additional things for you to add on top of the core rules if you want to. And there's no reason you can't come up with some of your own stuff too, because why the hell not? You can add on top of the core rules if you really want to. Now, when it comes to the lore here, I don't want to get too deep into it because there's a lot going on with their lore. I actually really like the lore that they wrote for this game. I might do a whole video on it, perhaps, maybe someday. But a lot of people like to dunk on one page rules and say, oh, it's just a lazy, copy of Warhammer. Games Workshop is better. This is dumb. I don't like it. I couldn't disagree with that more. I like their lore. I think their lore is just better than Games Workshop. Now, there obviously is not as much lore for the one page rules universe as there is for Games Workshop, because Games Workshop has been around for a long time. There are entire novels. There are many, many, many novels written about the Games Workshop lore, mostly Warhammer 40,000, right? That's their flagship title. But in terms of one-page rules, we'll just talk about these 2 factions here. We'll just use them as an example, right? So the Blood Brothers are a certain type of battle brother, right? The Battle Brothers, see, what I really like is, unlike the 41st Millennium, the Warhammer 40,000 type universe, in one page rules, humanity is not this like one imperium that all follows the emperor and that's all there is to it, right? No, that's just kind of the Battle Brothers. The Battle Brothers have their founder, and it's just a very different story, right? So the founder is like this geneticist that created these super soldiers, and he literally did some fascist type stuff, right? He's all like, yeah, let's do eugenics, basically, in my opinion, right? He's all like, yeah, we want a genetically pure future for humanity. Isn't that great? Let's do that. And if you can imagine, an awful lot of people said, no, we don't like the sound of that, actually. No. So there was humanity got divided because there was a gigantic civil war between just everyone opposing the founder and the founder's battle brothers, right? So there was this huge war. I could go into that. It's kind of a big story, but that's the Battle Brothers in a nutshell. They were made by the founder, and the founder is functionally immortal. There's an explanation for the founder's immortality, though, because he made this thing called a conduit, which is just a clone. He cloned himself, and he figured out a way to like implant his consciousness and memories into that clone, the conduit. So it's this really weird, creepy, immortal dude that wants a genetically perfect future, and they're getting rid of all the degenerates and whatnot. So yeah, like in my canon, in my headspace, the Battle Brothers are just space Nazis, basically. They're Nazis, kinda. That's what they are, if you ask me. Infected Colonies, though, what's kind of interesting is like they're not just plain old zombies, right? Like initially, I said they're space zombies, right? Well, sort of. What's really interesting is the lore for the Infected Colonies is it's actually a race of spores that are sentient. Okay, you have these sentient spores, and see the reason you have like walkers and runners and like these hunters and a tyrant and like all this different stuff is because like you have a variety of spores that will cause different mutations to the hosts that they infect. But again, the spores are sentient and they have like their own little like civilization, their own little society, their own culture in a sense. Like they actually like disagree on how they should like exist because they know that in order to exist they have to like kill their hosts in order to do stuff. Their hosts die. That's why they become zombies. So some of them are like, maybe we should just do that to the really bad people that deserve to die. Like maybe we shouldn't just do that to everybody. But that's Infected Colonies in a nutshell. It's spores that just infect kind of everything. Although sometimes they decide to selectively infect things, I guess you might say. But hey, we're just over 2 hours now. I don't want this to be any longer than it needs to be. If y'all are interested in some of the other stuff that I do, then check out the About section for this channel. But this video has been long enough, and I gotta get going sometime soon. So I'm gonna see y'all later. This was the first game of One Page Rules. Grimdark Future, it will not be the last. I'm gonna see y'all when I see you. Take it easy.